Remember when I said that I am not ready to be fed by party colors, and we spoke about the narrative of the clapping and singing songs and dancing. Now, this mentality I have observed for a while. I say that our leaders need to come out of the liberation struggle comrade, because you are my comrade. I will help you sort of thinking to this person has actual skills that we can use, and whether we like this person or not, the skills that they present we need, right? Pragmatism that has been lacking in our politics due to this liberation hangover, as some would call it. Now, I want to speak on the people, the narrative that was going on back in the day when people were abroad, and all of that was um, we will be liberated. And when we get liberated, think about the story, which is the story of was it Moses? When Moses led the people, he parted the ocean, and he was going to deliver them to the promised land. That was the narrative that SWAPO gave our people, that they were fighting for them, so that when they come back to Namibia, they will part way, and that will be the road. The road will be clear, and they will drive straight to the capital, and in the capital, everybody will dine together. Everybody will be together. But that was not the reality. Of course, the reality was to create governmental systems. Now we have the three tiers. We have the regional, local governments, and so forth. Now, this mentality on the people hasn't gone away. It is still something that was being told by grandmothers over fires to their grandchildren. They were told about the great heroes of the past, how the great heroes fought off the colonizers, and then how new chosen or anointed. You can link this to the whole when David was chosen to become king. And speaking about our founding father now, you can choose him as David. He became the anointed one who was now to rule over the kingdom, right? That is the narrative on the ground. That's why it was so hard for him to leave office, to the point where he had to they had to amend the constitution so that he could have a third term. At that point, he became a symbolic leader, just as much as we have Robert Mugabe in Zimbabwe, who is also just a symbolic leader, holding the party together as well as the country. Now, for us, our sort of thinking that our people have of um, can you call it we shall overcome, or um, if we praise them enough, or if we honor them enough, maybe, just maybe, they will take note and they will be able to help us. That's why you have the notion that people have in their minds when they see leaders, right? Leaders, then they start dancing, singing traditional songs, and lili lili and all of that stuff to sort of show respect and all of that, and the leaders have to put up with that. Um, that kind of mentality that our people have is a mentality that is so called tradition. It is not really tradition, it is the traditional method in which you remember the rainmakers. When people wanted rain, they would take their kettle and they would travel to the rainmaker. They would walk long distances, and when they got to the rainmaker, it was usually black cattle. When they got to the rainmaker, they would slaughter the cattle. After they've slaughtered the cattle, then the rainmaker would chant and he would do all sorts of things, and rain would come, and their crops would then survive. Later on, they started to do this seasonally, and due to the duration that they had to walk, when they got there, it was rain season anyway. Alright, that mentality yet was not broken, and until today, people still believe in rainmakers. And it's not just a Namibian problem, it's a global thinking. Nowadays, they call it conspiracy theory. They call it conspiracy theory. This is when people think there has to be something extraordinary behind everything, right? Um, the basic grounded, this is the answer, is not enough. There has to be something extraordinary behind an event that someone of great leadership is involved in. And this is why you have people who believe in things like Illuminati. They believe there is Illuminati. They bought that very easily because it explained a lot of the gaps of information that government does not give to the citizens, because for one, they don't need it anyway. Two, why do they need it? Three, if they had it, uh, it's not that then they would have power to overthrow governments or whatever. No, if they had it, if they had it, then um, their sort of the very notion of being a citizen is challenged, right? And now, Namibia, we have a people who are now waking up. I did, I went through the regions I'm going through, and they are moving away from the praise singing of chiefs and kings to praise singing of presidents and ministers and governors and whatever other forms of leadership we have, since we have so many. And the way that they approach them, they have not yet come into the notion that the way to actually approach them is at the ballot. It's to stand up as groups and say, these are the conditions for us to vote for you. Because what we have are politicians that put up the positions in order for people to vote for them, but we don't have the people putting up the positions for the government, for them to vote for the government. And the no vote was considered the ways of upsetting government, which is completely wrong. The best way to upset historically would be to vote for the lowest ranking parties in our states. Um, make Lucato regional governor. Show them that the people have the power. That kind of narrative has yet to be attained, right? So because that narrative is not attained, and there is a lot of dancing, and when they speak to government, they don't dialogue, they plea. And when you plea, you are not presenting the problems that you have. You are asking for extra help, which is, of course, acceptable. But we lack visionaries in our political structures, which makes it difficult, because the answers that we have had a lot of times, as we have seen, like to a lot of projects, were throw money at it. You throw money at it, some leaders loot, the project is attempted, and in the end it fails, and money was wasted, and nobody is accountable, and nobody knows why it failed. It failed because there was a lack of vision. There wasn't an overseer. There wasn't leadership present. If there is leadership present, accountability would be shown within a week or two. And most people think that rebellious leadership is good leadership. I don't think so. I don't think rebellious leadership is good leadership. I always believe that pragmatic leadership is good leadership. Of course, you cannot always be purely pragmatic or objective, but it gives you an advantage in that you start to look at both sides of the story. Even though you might be slightly biased to one, you will always look at both sides of the story, right? So the mentality of um, our new kings, our new chiefs, are now our um, presidents, ministers, and so forth, is completely wrong. They are our overseers, facilitators. They help us. The government's role is to help people to help themselves primarily. You have to help people help themselves. Thus, you lay the foundation for people to help themselves, and you always look at which people you are working with, and you find the necessary um, translations that you need to use, the necessary examples that you need to use in order to express what you're saying, to the point where you can express it now through PowerPoints and all sorts of stuff. But you are laying down that foundation for the people to show them this is how you can get the most out of what you have. And primarily, they have to know what it is they have. A lot of people do not know what it is they have. So when they know what it is they have, then you start to to look into their skills, because Africa, Africa is unique in that institutional education is not the only primary teacher of education. We have primary teaching of education, which is natural, which is within communities. That to me is a real tradition. So, moving away from the fire stories of talking about the very heroic leaders who lived and who did ABC, who are the visionaries of today? Because today we do not want leaders that fight with spears and knives and all of that. No, we want to empower the minds of our people. We want to spark the curiosity of our people, because the more curious our people are, the more curious that we in turn learn. And the more we learn, the more we learn how to better our conditions. And when we better our conditions, we are of course building prosperity, right? So it's a process, but it's a process that has to be looked at um, from a psychological point of view. It has to be looked at a psychological point of view, as in the past. How did these people communicate to the leadership of the past? And then you look at how are these people communicating now to the present leadership, and you have to change that. You have to be, that is leadership, that is taking a stand and saying, listen, we are here to do ABC. So all of this is absolutely unnecessary. As a matter of fact, we're wasting time. Let's sit down and let's get down to the matter at hand. But afterward, if we have succeeded, if we have come up with plans that actually work and visions that we can then try to manifest in real life, then we can celebrate. So we have to change the celebration of celebrating just the entrance of leadership to celebrating an impact made by leadership. This is what needs to change in our psyche. It's a necessity, and it involves everyone, from our leadership to us, the citizens. It's the way forward for Africa, for New Africa. We all have to know what we have, and we have to keep on telling each other what we have until we actually know how to use it efficiently. Salute for now.